But I think the main things is at the end of the day, volleyball is volleyball. It's in the same 9x9 court, and the rules are the same. So we. Is that on the back of your shirt?
Yeah, it's on the back of the shirt.
A little free shout out for you. And it doesn't matter who's on the other side of the net. You need to still execute to the best of your ability if you want a chance to win.
That's right, Brett Walsh. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the 9x9, the 81 square meters of the best volleyball coverage on the internet. Today is Tuesday, March 28th, 2023. It is episode 61. My name is Rob St. Clair, live from Chicago. That is Everett Delorme, live from Toronto, north of the border. 61 episodes, Everett, my guy. We're
That's a lot.
There.
That's a lot. We're 8 away from that magic number.
Ooh, we've got to do something special for that one. I didn't even think about that.
We might have to do something a little bit special for that one. I wonder when it's going to fall. We should figure that one out later. But yeah, 61. Who would have thunk it well over a year of 9x9s? And I mean, to be honest, it's been more too, because we've done so many other specials and stuff like that. But of the 9x9, yeah, it's been 61. And if you're new to the show or if you're an OG follower, welcome. All the same, the numbers have been going up quite a bit recently. So
yeah, people are getting into it. This is the time of the year. People are getting really excited about volleyball, and there's certainly a lot to cover.
Yeah, 100% a lot to cover. I've had people message me, obviously like Poland and Italy and stuff like that, but people from like Belize. Shout out if you're the guy from Belize who was messaging me. And yeah, so we've got international audience here, Rob, and that can tell. It just shows you how starved people are for volleyball coverage. So let's just jump into it. It's been another massive week. This might be the busiest time of the year for volleyball, just because of how many leagues are going on in Champions League and playoffs and everything. But let's start first and foremost with the Women's Champions League in Europe. We have the Final Four, and it's a big one. 3 teams, not only from Turkey, but from Istanbul. They are rising that country up when they need the most. And the one team from Italy, Rob, is not the team that we're expecting. CONEGLIANO out. No one can win the Affinity Gauntlet this year. Not Perugia, not CONEGLIANO. It's wide open. They lose to Fenerbahce last week, 3-2. But after they lost the first 2 sets, it was kind of over. NOVARA, the only team to move on, which is interesting considering how their Lega Volley Femminile season is going compared to how the Champions League season is going. But let's just jump into it. NOVARA 3-0 versus Stuttgart last week. Eczacibasi 3-2 over RZESZÓW last week. Do we need to talk much about these 2 games?
Not really. I like especially the NOVARA match versus Stuttgart just wasn't really that good of a game.
I was hoping for more, to be honest.
Yeah, 18, 19, 21. Like those sets just aren't that close. And I mean, going back to the first leg where Stuttgart had a chance to win the 4th set and at least get a point, like that would have made it a much more interesting series. Ended up not being. And so I don't think we need to talk about the series as much as we should talk about kind of NOVARA and how they got to this point, because you're right. They have had a bit of a weird year. There's been a lot that's gone on both on and off the court for them. They've had a bunch of injuries. They've had a little bit of internal turmoil, but still somehow, I think kind of based on a very lucky bracket draw, here they are in the Final Four of Champions League.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I think it is. I think it's 100% the bracket draw. If you look at their pool that they're in, I mean, they did have VakifBank, right? So that is not the easiest. But they managed to finish at top of the pool there. Luckily, thanks to a little bit of help from Potsdam.
Exactly.
And then
they got help there. Like, who could have expected Potsdam to beat VakifBank out of nowhere?
But they did beat VakifBank as well, right? Like they split the series against VakifBank, put VakifBank down to 2 losses. So that's big. And then just because of their differential, they don't have to play that first round game. They just have to play right into the quarterfinals. And they get Stuttgart. So lucky for them, it puts a good taste in their mouth, and that's not going to get any easier now when we look at the semifinals for NOVARA taking on Eczacibasi, who has been the hottest team in Turkey this year. But on the other side of that draw, that is going to be a crazy semifinal, because Fenerbahce just did what you didn't think was possible. I wasn't 100% on it. I thought it was going to be possible, but the way that they did it was just incredible. Sure, Conegliano technically won that match in 5, but we all know once you lose those first 2 sets, it's done. And Fenerbahce, they look good. They look powerful, especially in this setting where they can have Anna Cristina and Vargas and Fedoretseva all on the court at the same time. This is a dangerous team to play against, and they show by taking down what was regarded as the top team in the world before that.
This was a crazy series. I think it could be massively significant for all of women's volleyball because of the way that Fenerbahce did that. Now, we already talked about the game that they won at home, just like beating the brakes off Conegliano 3-0. But to come into a hostile environment on the road in Italy in a do-or-die game, great atmosphere, like Fenerbahce won the first 25-23. It was not that close. Conegliano made a huge comeback. It was 8-1. I think it might have been even 10-1. Irina Fedoretseva got back to the service line. She was like the second server of the entire match for Fenerbahce. She ripped off 7 or 8 points or so in a row, including 4 aces in that first set combined, was just absolutely untouchable from the service line. And then she turned it around, did the exact same thing in the second set. She had 4 aces there, 8 aces total, including one that I think was the greatest serve in women's volleyball history. And I'll find the exact score, and we can make a clip out of it later for social media. But I think that wrist away serve in the second set that Irina Fedoretseva put right on the last millimeter of both the baseline and the sideline, I think that was actually the greatest serve in women's volleyball history. And Conegliano they absolutely could not handle it. And I'm really glad that our friend Berkay from Turkey put this in the chat. I saw him say this in the Discord, and I agree. This is a women's volleyball team that is playing men's volleyball right now.
Yes, absolutely.
They're playing men's volleyball, and it's working.
One thing that I do want to mention, though, even though they did go up 8-1, possibly 10-1, Conegliano did bring that gap back. Right? It was 16-13, 21-18, so they still had that 3-point spread. Hawk had 8 points in that first set. It was kind of a battle of the Titans. You could tell that Conegliano got knocked back, but I think that they just kind of got deflated, brought that gap back all the way and quickly. But then Fenerbahce, to their credit, was able to just really stabilize everything, keep that 3-point gap all the way to the end. And this, to me, isn't just a team with a lot of firepower, but has a lot of maturity and clearly has good leadership with the way that they were able to hold off the Conegliano comeback after that point.
I don't really look into it that way. I think that Fenerbahce was in control of the entire game. I don't think that it's weird. I don't even think they're that mature of a team. I think that they look at Conegliano the same way they look at every other opponent they play, and they actually don't care who's on the other side of the net from them. I think they're actually sort of a less intelligent team, but in a good way. They literally do not care. They do not care about the opposing matchup. It doesn't matter, because if they execute like they did from the service line and attacking high balls, they play a very simple, basic, strategic style of volleyball, and it does not matter what is going on the other side of the net from them. They don't care. They don't care they don't really care about playing defense. They're not a good backcourt defensive team. They don't care about diversifying their offense. Their middles have 5 attempts combined in 2 sets. Like, they literally do not run the middle. They don't run the middle behind the setter. It doesn't matter. That's why I'm saying, they're playing sort of almost a primitive style of men's volleyball, where they're just hitting the ball as hard as they can from the service line, and they do not care what a team is doing against them. And if they have a good day being physical and just dominating people in those categories, they're going to win. They don't care who it is. And my concern was, I don't know if that's sustainable. After they did it in the first game at home a couple weeks ago against Conegliano and won that 3-0 stunner, I'm like, whoa, that has to be an outlier. There's no way they can do that again. And then they did. So I don't really even know what to make of this Fenerbahce team, because they're almost like the Piacenza Coppa Italia run on the men's side in Italy. Ooh. But now there's more data behind it. They've now done it twice.
I feel like that is, I don't know if that's a fair assessment. I would give Fenerbahce much, much more credit. Like, this is a team that has been doing this all season long. Right. And then added Melissa, more or less. But once again, they added Melissa Vargas to the mix. and that was always the indication. But they've continuously been like one of the top teams in Turkey, right? They've continuously been up to that point. But I definitely agree with Berkay and yourself that they're playing men's volleyball right now.
Right.
They bang hard on the pins. They serve tough from the baseline, and that's exactly what I said a few weeks ago when we were previewing this series that they were going to need to do to put off CONEGLIANO, and that's what they did. They banged serves from the baseline. This is a physical team, maybe one of the most physical teams that we've ever seen in women's volleyball. It's unreal how they play the game, and you're right. There's not much detail to this game. I kind of like it. Berkay's coming into the chat as well. He's a savior today, saying it doesn't look like they studied them well. Robin talked like Vargas, like she was watching her for the first time in life. She couldn't even remember her name.
Well, you reap what you sow on that one. I mean, I don't know how you could sleep on a team of Fenerbahce's talent. Melissa Vargas is, I mean, you could certainly make a case for her as a top 5 opposite in the world. I think that's would be pretty fair right now. I would put her above Carraro, above Stysiak, like really probably 4th outside of Egonu Hawk-Boskovic in some order. Like Melissa Vargas is unbelievable. Just because she hasn't played on the national team or any national team in a while doesn't give you an excuse to not know who that player is.
What's crazy too is that she's doing it on the left side, right? Like she's lining up opposite to Fedoretseva, and they have or is
no,
she?
that's not correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Vargas is the opposite, and she plays like an opposite, and she's awesome.
You're right. Yeah, you're right.
She's always been awesome. Like we've seen this the last couple of years. She goes and plays in China, makes a bunch of money, comes back to Fenerbahce midway through the year, and immediately makes them a Champions League contender. It's like it's not the first time we've seen this from them.
But the thing is that they have 2 players that can do it, right. Whereas Kelsey Robinson Cook did not look good in that first set. She was 0 for 4. She was 0 for 4 there. Catherine Plummer, she was 2 for 6. They only had Hawk scoring for them, whereas it was Anna Kristina and Vargas for Fenerbahce.
And Fedoretseva, who's clearly the best server in the world in women's volleyball right now. Like you cannot beat a team that has 8 aces in 2 sets. When a team only has to win 2 sets to advance in the series, if they get 4 aces from one player in the first set and then 4 aces from that same player in the second set, it's over. Her serving was something that nobody could have seen and nobody could have prepared for because it's just that good. Like that's kind of what I'm saying. There's only so much that you can do to prepare for a team that doesn't care who you are. They don't care about the matchup. They're going to go bang balls from the service line. They're going to go rip high balls on the wings. They're not going to set the middle. It doesn't matter. They're going to hit the ball as hard as they can. They're going to use their physicality, and it worked. I'm stunned that it worked against a team of CONEGLIANO's quality, and it absolutely did.
I'm really excited for this all Istanbul matchup now, especially in the next round, where you have Fenerbahce taking on VakifBank, it's always been
revenge game.
Yeah, Super Cup revenge game. That's going to be a big one. But Eczacibasi has been the big team in Turkey all season long, right? They haven't really lost a match. But now you have Fenerbahce taking on VakifBank. VakifBank has been the dominant force in women's volleyball in Turkey now for a few years. But Fenerbahce has all that history. I think that one is going to be a banger, and the crowds are going to be into it.
Yeah.
And especially if it's Eczacibasi, who I think Eczacibasi is going to beat Novara. You look at those two teams like player by player, and I'm all for Eczacibasi. If you compare Carraro to Tijana Boskovic, I don't think there's even a comparison right now in the way those two teams are playing, which is interesting because, of course, Carraro is Turkish. She is the Turkish national team. But if you end up having Eczacibasi move on against either of those teams, the super finals are going to be absolutely unreal. And where is it? It's in Turin. That's where the finals.
It's kind of a shame it's not in Istanbul or Ankara.
Oh man,
could you imagine?
Yeah, absolutely. If that game was in Istanbul, it would be there might be riots.
There
honestly,
probably would.
There might be riots.
Greece caliber, and that would be really fun. I would be all for that. I mean, we should address the Eczacibasi series just a little bit and tie it into their next game because they did beat RZESZÓW in 5. Once they took 2 sets, they got on the board in the 4th set. It was over. Somebody made the point in the chat earlier, and I kind of agree. I think Novara might not even be able to put up as much of a fight as RZESZÓW did. I think RZESZÓW is a team that they don't have a horse like Carraro Boskovic. Like they don't have that player they're going to give all the balls to. They're going to have to be balanced and play good defense and be scrappy and just kind of win long rallies and do what they can. Novara is a team that is more similar to Eczacibasi, but just not as good. And a matchup that Eczacibasi is extremely prepared for. So I totally agree with you. I very much like them to get to the finals.
I think RZESZÓW is a much better coach team with Stefan Antiga there.
Yeah, shout out to Antiga.
Than on the other side with NOVARA. So yeah, I honestly would expect this one to be 3-0, 3-0, right? Maybe NOVARA wins a match, a set at home. Maybe. But I expect the other one to be an absolute bloodbath because there's two players on that team, on the VakifBank team, that are going to refuse to lose. I mean, the entirety of that team, the defending champs, they don't want to defend that, but Agonu, this is her time to shine. Right. This is her time. This is what they signed her for. This is what they signed her for. Everything prior to this doesn't matter. Right. There's only two things that truly matter, and that's the SuperLega Playoffs and the CEV Champions League. And so I think that this one is going to be an absolute bloodbath. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a five set go to golden set in this one, because it is going to be unreal.
The question is going to be Fenerbahce's sustainability of the same game plan that they've used to destroy CONEGLIANO and make them look like a pedestrian team. Can they keep doing that against an opponent that has to intimidate them more? I mean, I don't know why they would really care particularly about CONEGLIANO, but VakifBank is, I think, domestically a little bit of a different beast. Even though they did it much earlier in the year, I think that the chance of Fenerbahce getting a bit intimidated might be there. And just the volatility of using ridiculous service pressure to win games, that you can't really rely on that, as we've talked about in several tournaments in the recent history. If Fenerbahce can keep this up, if they can serve like that, and if they can just keep doing this very basic physical style of volleyball, and if the best teams in the world can't touch them, then no reason why they can't just straight up go and win Champions League and like not even break a sweat. If they're going to serve that well, I don't see even VakifBank being able to handle it.
I do, and for one reason and one reason only, Gabby. Right? If there's one player, like I don't think Kelsey Robinson-Cook or Catherine Plummer are up to the task when it comes to like the big serving like that, and they don't know if they have enough like character and personality. Once again, they come from that American system that is very much let's do this together, which is fantastic. There's nothing wrong with that. But Gabi has that attitude. She's used to being the number one on this team. She's used to going up against the best players in the world, both for VakifBank and for Brazil. So if there's one player who might have to just go, I'm just going to pass the entire court myself. Like I don't even know who they have as the second left side at the moment for VakifBank.
Ben Karabayama lately, she's been pretty good, but it's not like Gabby.
But like once again, like Bayama, Serbian, like she knows those big serves, having played with Tijana Boskovic.
Bayama is American, Everett. Nice try.
Oh, right.
We see Gabi be targeted in reception even less than VakifBank's libero or than Brazil's libero. Like Gabi
100%.
is the best serve receiver on any team that she plays on. And I agree with you. I think there's one player that can handle it just from the like that dog in her perspective that's going to refuse to lose to Fenerbahce. Then she might have to be the player. You also got to get a good Agonu day, because she's going to be hitting a lot of out of system balls.
But also too, when you think about it, just like Burkai said in the chat, like CONEGLIANO was kind of looking over Fenerbahce, right, and not prepping for them, clearly not ready for them. VakifBank will not make that mistake.
No.
Right. Not only do they know them from having played against them, lost to them multiple times this season, but now that they took down CONEGLIANO, who was quote unquote the number one team in the world up to that point, I don't see it happening. Like I don't see a 3-0 happening. I see this one being a dogfight.
Okay, so who's your pick?
Right now, I have to go with Fenerbahce. Right, because just the way that they're playing, the way that you have the three-headed monster. Right, offensively in terms of firepower, VakifBank just doesn't have it, right? They're going to have to pass well enough to beat VakifBank to beat Fenerbahce down the middle for VakifBank to win. Like that's what you need to do. And Egonu has to have an all-time game where she's efficient, much more than she usually is. She needs to be much more efficient, and Gabi needs to score 15 plus points at the very least.
I like VakifBank because I'm not convinced about the sustainability of this Fenerbahce winning play style. I mean, to win that CONEGLIANO series was unbelievably impressive. Like I'm much more convinced by that than I was by Piacenza winning the Italian Cup. And I do think that those things are similar because of the way that they won them, of just catching fire from the service line for 2 matches and getting them done that way. And we saw what happened to Piacenza immediately after winning that Italian Cup. They completely crashed and burned, and they lost in the CEV Cup semifinal.
I think it's very different though because of the type of organization. Because the type of organization that Fenerbahce is, right? We're talking about one of the most storied, like just sport clubs in the world, right here. They know how to win. And
the club knows how to win, but it's the 7 players on the court, and I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced that the way that they do this is sustainable. It's able to beat anybody when it's there. Like that level of serving, I'm serious. There's nobody in women's volleyball that can beat Fenerbahce if they serve like they did against CONEGLIANO just now. But can they? I'm not convinced that it's sustainable. VakifBank is a team that actually knows how to win. The players that are there actually know how to win.
But they haven't done it this season. Right, I'm looking at what the sample size is from recent. Like my recency bias is really high right now, and Fenerbahce is doing both. Like once again, like I did give credit to VakifBank a little bit earlier, but for me, Fenerbahce is the favorite in this one, and they have to be.
Fair enough. I mean, it's going to be an amazing series, but we've learned that I really think that Piacenza on the men's side is a good example how dangerous recency bias can be in the way that they won that Italian Cup. I think that VakifBank, who has actually been there before, either their whole team last year and then bringing in Egonu, who has a great case to be the best player in the world. I like them in that series, but it's going to be fireworks for sure.
My question is, with this, does Vargas slot herself in? Like, do we have a fourth athlete who could potentially be the best player in the world with the way she's been playing? And does RZESZÓW slot herself in as the best outside in the world? Because previously that was Gabi, but like this series right here might figure that out, all of that out for me.
I've got to see hardware. I've got to see major tournament victory hardware. If Fenerbahce wins the Champions League, then I might be able to have the conversation about those 2 players, but not until then.
Okay, sounds good, and I respect that. Just to let you know, a few weeks ago it was that not a few weeks ago, February 5th, Fenerbahce beat VakifBank 3-0.
Okay, I mean they beat him 3-0 in the Super Cup final as well at the beginning of the year, and that was before Melissa Vargas even got there. So there's recent history in Fenerbahce's favor for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyways, as you said, it's going to be absolutely bananas in this one. It's
not this week, but next week. I think next Wednesday. So we'll have time to preview it on next Wednesday's show.
Yeah,
unless it's Tuesday. Ooh, I got to double check that. It might be like a week from today. Actually, I think it is. Is it next Tuesday, April 4th? Is that our next show? Yeah. VakifBank versus Fenerbahce is 11 a.m. Eastern next Tuesday, April 4th. So we'll have a match to talk about on next week's show, which is awesome.
That is okay. Great. I'm excited. It's going to be a lot of Champions League to talk about, because in a little bit we're going to preview the men's semifinals that go down tomorrow. But first, before that, let's jump over to the CEV. Do we want to preview NOVARA versus Eczacibasi at all?
We already did. I think we already did. I think Eczacibasi is going to the finals.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, moving over to the CEV Cup on the women's side. THY gets the win, but Scandicci moves on. After winning, all they needed was 2 sets, and they got it. Pretty much to be expected without Kira Van Rijk, who's been the top scorer for THY. She's at home in Canada with her mother, who's currently in hospital. So obviously we send our best wishes to Mrs. Van Rijk and hope Kira's doing well. But Scandicci moving on to the finals, and they will be taking on Alba Blaj out of Romania. They beat Targoviste in the all-Romanian semifinal of the CEV Cup.
Thanks for participating.
Pretty much.
We said this entire CEV Cup on the women's side. The Scandici versus THY series was the final. Congratulations to Scandici on winning the 2023 CEV Cup. Great. I'm not going to watch that series. Scandici has way more talent than any team in Romania could ever field, and we don't really need to talk about it. But it is unfortunate about this THY Scandici series. I was excited about it. I was hoping it was going to be better. Like the first match was worse, and that was when THY had all their players. And this one, THY fought a lot harder. They played good volleyball without Van Rijk and without Naz, their starting setter. And they played good volleyball, went up 2-1, but in the end it wasn't enough. So I'm giving the trophy to Scandici right now.
Yeah, might as well. And I mean, to be expected. I don't think there's any. Oh, I was going to say there's no Turkish teams, but obviously there's this one team, and maybe Galatasaray. No, I don't think they're in this competition either. But yeah,
sure.
Give this one to Scandici, second best team from Italy right now, taking on a Romanian team. I just don't think that's going to happen. Real quick, Berkai in the chat once again. Arena Federativa is tied for the most aces in Champions League ever, and she has 2 more series to play. She has potentially 3 more matches.
That is, I mean, they did play 1 more series than historically has existed. Like that play-in series is new this year, but it is still absolutely bonkers, the level of serving that she's displayed. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's huge.
Speaking of Italian teams beating Romanian teams in CEV competition, congratulations to Chieri on winning the Challenge Cup. They beat some Romanian team called Lugoj. Whatever. We don't really even need to talk about this.
Yeah.
Challenge Cup is Challenge Cup. Chieri is from Italy. Everybody else is inferior. Good for them for getting some hardware.
I almost would wish that like Italian teams couldn't play Challenge Cup and CEV Cup.
I kind of like that. Like give like the elite leagues like the worst that they can play is CEV Cup. Like you got to leave Challenge Cup to like the
Romania,
Greece,
Germany,
and the Romania,
France, and Greece, and absolutely
like that Bulgarian team that failed to score double digits in Champions League. Like put them in Challenge Cup. They might actually win some games.
Yeah, absolutely. Or just change up the Champions League system altogether. Do it a tiered system. You know, you move up with your losses, you move up with your wins, down with your losses, get likes with likes. You know, imagine if we just had like an upper group of just the best Italian and Turkish teams. It would be a bloodbath. Everyone would tune in instead of just having it's only really starting to get relevant now in the quarterfinals.
Well, speaking of tuning in, I mean, I think we might have to give the Figure It Out of the Week award sponsored by Vera Volley Malonza to the CEV as an entity. I think we might have to give it to them. One reason as we jump over to Men's Champions League, which we'll preview in a second, they have all the games at the same time this week, as usual. We're used to that being a problem. That's very annoying. But what are you doing hiring commentators that don't know the format of Champions League? The guy that did the Eczacibasi series didn't know that the series was over after the 4th set. He thought he was saying,
he's got a British accent.
all the drama's coming into this 5th set. This is amazing. There's a 5th set to decide who goes. No, that's not correct. It was over, and the YouTube chat was clowning on him, and he deserved to be clowned on. How are they hiring these people when Everett and I are sitting right here watching the games? It's embarrassing.
I mean, we know the answer, but we're not going to talk about it on here. All right, moving on to tomorrow's Men's Champions League semifinals. I'm excited. It is going to be awesome. We've got 2 games, Halkbank against JSW at noon Eastern time. And then at 2:30, we just saw on the screen there, Zaksa, the 2-time defending champs, taking on Perugia, who can no longer get the Affinity Gauntlet, but can still win Champions League. Of course, that's going to be important. Rob, let's start with Halkbank versus JSW. This is going to be a very, very good series. This one's a toss-up. I truly believe it. And this may be controversial, but I have a penchant to say that it's going to be Halkbank. Just the way this team is playing, the way that they played in the last round, how we've seen JSW struggle since the beginning of the season. At the beginning of the season, I thought that this was a team that was destined to sweep the Plusliga, win the trophy easily, and be in the finals of the Champions League. But since then, it hasn't really happened, whereas Halkbank has been very, very good and consistently good.
And they picked up a massive midseason player in Thomas Jeschke, who completely changes their team for the
100%.
better. And we've seen that from Halkbank the last couple series. They have been a transformationally different and better team since they have one more legitimate wing threat. And I agree. I like Halkbank. I think they're a much better serving team than Jastrzębski is. My question in this series, and the thing I want to emphasize, is clean volleyball. The ability for Halkbank to play clean volleyball versus Jastrzębski, who is a pretty clean volleyball team. I think that is a strength of theirs. Like Fornal, Kleveno, and Popivchak is a gnarly serve-receive unit. It's way better than Halkbank's. Jastrzębski is a way better defensive team than Halkbank, but Halkbank is a better serving team. So I think that's kind of the key matchup. Halkbank tends to get into some of these games that end up kind of being rock fights. Like they're sloppy, they're physical, all sorts of weird random stuff happens. It's always really fun to watch. But Jastrzębski is a total style counter to that. They're very different than Lube, who Halkbank just beat. Lube gives away points for free like they're just a charity. Jastrzębski will not do that. And I'm curious to see if Halkbank can earn all of those break points that they're going to need to separate from them in this series.
Yeah, you're very right about that. One thing, though, I think that Halkbank is a very emotional team, which can be bad at times, but can be very, very good at times. Like if you have, if the momentum is behind them, they're a tough team to stop. You've got two fantastic wingers with Namir and Jeschke, obviously, but to me, it's going to be really interesting to see the setting matchup versus the old versus the new, right? You have Ben Tunuyuti, who's been there, he's done it, he's won a Champions League, he's maybe not a legend, but he's an A-tier athlete, pretty close. I mean, if he had been the starter for France when they won the Olympics, it would be a different story, but unfortunately for him, that was Guizal. But, he was the guy that helped build this French team into the program that they are today, and at his size and the way that he's able to do it and still be successful is ridiculous. But Micah Ma'a is, to me, like one of the most electric young setters that we have, just in terms of his all-around game, the way he can block, the way he can serve, the way he can hit the ball onto. Just he has such a feel for the game. Volleyball is such a meet between the art and the science, and there's some players who rely so much on the science, and there's other players who rely so much on the art. Micah Ma is a damn Picasso, baby. The way he plays this game is so entertaining. It's so fun to watch. And that's why I cannot wait to see this matchup from the setters, because they have so many weapons at their disposal, especially JSW. I don't think that their weapons are necessarily as good, right? They don't have the bazookas that Halkbank do, but they have solid machine guns all around.
I mean, you're talking about weapons, and Halkbank's starting outside hitter is Nicolas Bruno, who hit 11 balls in 5 sets against Lube and hit negative efficiency. They have two weapons. We've also seen
Bruno. We've all, 100%. They have those two weapons without a doubt. But we have at times, not recently, but in the past 5 years, we've seen Bruno drop 25-point games for Argentina. We've seen him be there. Like he's one of those players that doesn't need to be high scoring, but can be high scoring. Right. So, but I don't think with Kleveno and Fornal and Boyer / Hadrava, imagine if we saw Hadrava in this series, how happy you'd be. They have solid everywhere. But if we're talking video game scores right here, especially in attacking, Namir's a 90 for sure. Jeschke is he's a high, he's maybe an 87, 88, but his attacking scores are up in the 95s. And the other guys, I would say the other guys are all probably low to mid 80s.
I think that Stefan Boyer is going to be the most important player in this series.
Absolutely.
If he clean volleyball, if Stefan Boyer does not give Lube levels of free points away, I really, really like Jastrzębski, and I'm going to pick him. I'm going to pick Jastrzębski to win the series over Halkbank.
Okay, I think I'm going to continue going to Halkbank on this one, because I jumped on that bandwagon as soon as they got into the playoffs, and I'm going to ride with them for sure. I may not ride it with them up against either of the other two teams on the other side, because man, that Perugia versus Axa semifinal is going to be outstanding, especially now that we know that Perugia has kinks in their armor, including a loss to Milano last week. But I really think that Halkbank they have that fire in them, and I love that. I love that fire.
They're a very fiery team. Every single game they've played in Champions League, something crazy happens. It usually involves a lot of yelling at the ref and a lot of challenges and replays and whistling from the fans. And tomorrow, noon Eastern, on both Eurovolley TV, CEV YouTube, you can expect some more of the same. It's going to be really fun.
Yeah, that was going to be a fun. Definitely, if you aren't already in the Discord, make sure to get your butt in the Discord, because know it's going to be popping off. We've got some JW fans, we've got some Turkish fans stands in there, so it is going to be a good one. Now, Rob, let's move on to the second game, going down at 3:30. Yeah, 3:30 Eastern time.
2:30 Eastern.
2:30.
Yeah.
Did we switch back with the clocks?
Yeah, we did. I think Europe just had daylight savings time, so
Okay.
Flash Score told me 2:30 p.m. Eastern, so I'm gonna hope that's right. But
Okay,
I think
sounds
this might be my. I mean, I've already said it a couple times. The series in this Champions League, they just keep getting better. They keep getting better and better. And this one is everything that a volleyball fan could have dreamed of like 3 years of all the post-COVID storylines in club volleyball, all lead up to basically this series right here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so many storylines, like Zaksa, who has like remember their first championship, they had to go through like quite a gauntlet, right?
Lube, Zenit Kazan, and then Trentino. Yes.
Yeah. And then Trentino. They had a little bit easier time last year, but wouldn't it be something if they were able to do the three-peat up against Perugia, who is undoubtedly the number one team in the world right now, even though they didn't win the Italian Cup, even though they lost to Milano in 5 last week. It doesn't matter. They're still the number one team in the world at the moment. But on top of all that, you have Zaksa's son, if you will, the glory man of Zaksa, now playing for Perugia. There's just so many beautiful storylines in this, and I cannot wait for it to go down.
Yeah, reigning Champions League MVP Kamil Semeniuk playing against his hometown team this series, and we've talked on the last couple shows, and it's continued to go this direction, that Semeniuk for Perugia has not been particularly good. So will we even see him in this series? I mean, there's a decent chance that we won't, because like, what reasons would you have to bench Leon or Plotnitsky with how they've been playing? But we talked about it earlier about the way that teams prepare. Like, there was a comment about maybe CONEGLIANO didn't prepare very well for Fenerbahce. You better believe these two teams are going to prepare. Nobody prepares quite as well as Zaksa does. I think part of their success the last two Champions League was their just elite abilities to prepare for other teams and understand matchups. That is a very high volleyball IQ team, and it is a team that has been there before. They pick up Bartosz Bednorz midway through the year, like, amazing pickup. But other than that, everybody else has won Champions League last year, and a decent number of them won Champions League the previous year. So Champions League success runs through this club as of the last couple of years. They're the two-time defending champs for a reason. If there is a team that I think might be able to beat Perugia in the world in a two-match series, it would be Zaksa. So I think this is going to be closer than anybody's come to really convincingly beating Perugia this year.
If Zaksa beat Perugia, it won't be in both matches, right?
No,
if they do, I think it's in two scenarios. Either Perugia wins one of the games in 3, and then they win in 3. Perugia wins one of the games in 5, and then they win in 3 or 4. Right, where they, like, the game where they only need to win the 2 sets. And I think that if there's going to be a game that they can win in 3 or 4, it'll be tomorrow at home, like playing at home in front of their home fans. We know what Polish fans are like. We know what Zaksa fans are like. That is going to be a rabid environment. Or this one's going to a golden set. I can see 100%. How could you not? How could you, it would be outstanding. I could see a situation where Perugia just comes in and dominates tomorrow and really silences that crowd, especially the way that the team can serve. Right? If they can serve tough on Bednorz, who's definitely the weak chink in that armor when you've got Soji and Slivka, like, if they put that pressure on Bednorz and he can't handle it, I do see Perugia taking the win away tomorrow in 3 or 4 and having, like, just a stranglehold on this series. because like they are, even though Piacenza beat them from the baseline, they are a very one of the best serving teams on the men's side.
They're terrifying, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm really interested to see in this series how fatigue plays a factor. Perugia is in the middle of a battle in the quarterfinals in the Scudetto, which has gone not nearly as easily as they would have expected. They've got to play a match this weekend to advance. Everybody thought they were going to beat Milano 3 times and not have to worry about a game 4, but that hasn't been the case. And Zaxa, meanwhile, with all the makeup games that have needed to happen in the Plusliga, and as busy as that schedule is, they've got their last weekend coming up this weekend, and Zaxa, as we'll talk about later, is going to have a very difficult playoff run as well. These two teams are playing a ton of volleyball. They're playing a lot of very meaningful, very draining games. It's a hard travel schedule. Which one is going to handle that part of it better? I think that's going to be something to keep an eye on.
That's why I think maybe Perugia has a bit of a hand, like a bit of an advantage. They've played less matches this season due to the crazy Plusliga schedule. They did have the World Club Championships, but I mean that's so far in the past. But you've also had the ability to sit one of your outsides. You've had the ability to sit your opposite consistently, right? And if one of them isn't working, you can go to the other one. To me, I don't see a scenario where you don't start Kamil Semeniuk. Right? When
really?
You don't, absolutely. I don't care. I don't care about how good he's been recently, because let's be honest, he has been bad. However, like, he is still the reigning MVP of the Champions League. You're going back into his home arena for the first time. Maybe not start, but there's no chance that we don't see him, right? Because if there's one player who knows how to play against Zaxa, it's the man who was Zaxa for a few years, right? Their son, as I said, like he knows them so well. He knows that system so well. He knows that building so well, and he's going to get invigorated by it. To me, there's no way that he doesn't play in this match. Absolutely no way. If I'm the coach, I bring him in. I have a chat with him tonight, and we're like, "How are you feeling? How are you doing?" And I want to look in his eyes like, "Are you ready?" And there's no doubt in my mind that Kamil Semeniuk looks at me with, the fire of Hades in his eyes and goes, "Put me on the damn court, coach. If you don't have me on, I'm going to riot," because he wants to play this game. He does.
I hope so. I hope that we see it. It would be just much watch volleyball as if it wasn't already. But what case can you make to bench Wilfredo Leon or Ole Plotnitsky with the way that they've been playing? Like, Plotnitsky alone from the service line, I think is a must play with how he's just dismantled teams from the baseline. And I'm fascinated to see how they're going to do with that. But I do really like the point that you made that Perugia has a lot more depth than Zaxa does. A lot more. Not only do they have more options in this series if they need it, but they've had more options in the last several months that the players don't have quite the wear and tear of the season that Zaxa does. So I agree. I think that is a narrow advantage for Perugia.
But that's why I think you talking about Plotnitsky, that's why I think it's better to have him on the bench, right? Because to me, you have to start Semeniuk because of the situation, because of the stage that it's on, because of where you're playing. But if you have in your pocket Ole Plotnitsky, who is used to coming off the bench and is used to playing that role, who has been a fantastic passer, right? He had 4 aces in his last match. Maybe not as offensively gifted, but we've seen Semeniuk kind of struggle a little bit. It is going to be, I think that having Plotnitsky in your pocket is having like an ace up your sleeve playing poker.
Yep, certainly helps. Same thing with Carraro on the right side. I would expect Rikliski to start, and then if he's mediocre or you need a little bit more of a lightning bolt, you put the Cuban lefty in, see what happens. I mean, that's the luxury that Perugia has. They've got 3, even you could argue 4 very capable middles. They've got 2 liberos. Like, they're ridiculous. There's a reason why they're the number 1 team in the world. So tomorrow, 2:30 Eastern in Poland, it goes down. Everett, who's your pick? Who do you got?
Perugia. Like, this team was constructed for this. It was built for the Champions League. It was built to win championships. The Italian Cup doesn't matter. You know what matters? Champions League. You know where this team has choked the past few years? Champions League and the Scudetto playoffs, right? You can only focus on one at a time, and the first and foremost is Champions League, because Zaxa is their biggest competition in this tournament. It
For
doesn't
sure.
matter who's on the other side of the bracket. You know, this is like the CEV Cup. It doesn't matter for Scandici because they just beat the hardest team, right? This is their hardest match right here because Zaxa is going to come in prepared. They're good. They know how to win, and they can do it consistently. So this to me, Perugia. There has never been a bigger series and never been a bigger set of matches for Perugia in the club's entire history than these two right now.
I completely agree. This is a franchise defining series. And for that reason, I'm gonna pick against them. I'm gonna pick Zaxa. You said it. The Champions League is where Perugia has choked the last couple of years, and it's not just this team. It's been last year's team too. Was built to win every competition they played in, and they failed in every competition they played in except for last year's Italian Cup. They choked in Champions League. They choked in the Scudetto. Zaxa did not. Zaxa overachieved each of the last 2 years with phenomenal talent for sure, but not like Perugia. Zaxa's process, Zaxa's experience, Zaxa's, I think, fearlessness and embracing of the moment is something that I have a lot of faith in. And I think that it's proven itself the last couple of years. They're not scared of the Perugia matchup. I think they're one of the only club teams that can legitimately say that. And I don't want to use the C word. I don't want to put the C word on Perugia in this potential series again, but we've seen it the last couple of years. There might be in a franchise defining series a little bit of this going on. I'm not sure.
I mean, they're not Polish, but don't put that on them.
Well, yikes. I also think it's fun because we've all of these dramatic series, you and I have picked the opposite thing. So we'll see who's going to be right about this. I also just love that Zaxa team. I think they're awesome, and I think that they're ready for it.
One thing I will say, though, if Perugia loses this match, this team is going to get blown up.
Oh, yeah.
Right? If Perugia loses this match, I see Leon leaving his contract.
Yep, I agree.
Right? Like, to me, there's no way that they... like this is do or die.
Yeah, this is it.
This is like year 2 for the Miami Heat right here.
Yep, this is it, and it's going to be a treat. So 2:30 Eastern tomorrow, absolute must-watch match. Put it on your calendar. Stop what you're doing. Cancel your plans, and get in the Discord to talk about it while it's going on, because this match of the year potential stuff right here.
Oh, without a doubt. This is definitely going to be. I think both of these have the potential to be absolute fire. I could see the first game having a load of cards, and this one just being like two heavyweights banging away at each other.
It's going to be awesome. So get in the Discord. All this CEV stuff is going to be great. Also going down tomorrow, the first leg of Modena versus NAC Russellari in the CEV Cup final. If you watch that over Zaxa versus Perugia,
don't ever watch this show again.
Don't ever watch this show again. Leave the Discord.
Even if you're a Modena fan, right? I don't care. Tommy, Berkay, I know you guys are Modena stands. Then you have kind of off to the side and you watch the game.
Like if you've got two, yes, it's for sure. Well, if you've got two games on and the sound isn't on the Perugia Zaxa game, you're nuts. I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited. It's like it's tingling inside.
I know, dude. It's gonna be so awesome. I cannot wait.
Yeah, this one is going to be absolutely bananas. I love that we're on either side of this. It is going to be fun.
Very fun. All right, so I think that's it for CEV. A lot going on. That was a lot of good discussion. We'll have plenty to talk about on next week's show. But before we turn our attention to the domestic leagues, what are you wearing over there? It's a nice looking shirt you got on.
You know what? Looks good. It feels good. It's soft. And it's our merch. So if you want to support us, this is the best way to do it. Head over to thatvolleyball.store. You can go check it out, buy some of our merch, and you can check out all the other great things that we have over there to offer on thatvolleyball.store.
And use the promo code SPICY, all caps, for 15% off. We still got that going, right?
Oh, absolutely. I think we might just keep it in perpetuity for all of our good friends here who watch this show. Yep. And come on, Berkay, if you have the sound on for the Modena game, because you know there's not going to be a commentator. right?
No, why
You
would
know,
no?
no. I mean, but then again, given some of the commentary we've had recently, if it's Louis or Keith Michael, then it's acceptable. But otherwise, don't do it.
Yeah, I don't know who they're going to put on the Perugia game tomorrow, but I have a feeling I'm not going to like it.
Won't be us.
No, I wish. Well, let's get in the Discord. The link to the Discord's in the description of the video here. If you're not already, it's the best online volleyball community by far, and you're going to want to get in that, especially for tomorrow's games.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
All righty, moving right along. You want to do Italy?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. We have to jump into Italy because there has been not one but two games since we last talked. All series are sitting at 2-1 right now. We have 4 teams. I was hoping that at this point we could at least have a chat about one team had won, because these are all best of 5 series. But as Rob and I were talking about before the show, last Wednesday was one of the best days of volleyball we've had in a long time.
Awesome.
3 of the 4 games going 5. It was unreal. First, let's just go down some of the results from that day. Milano beating Perugia 3-2 in 5. Ridiculous match. Verona taking a 2-0 lead over Lube with a 3-2 win over the defending champs. Modena going up to 2-0 in their series with a 3-2 win over Piacenza, the Italian Cup champs. And then Monza even things up against a Trentino squad that was in a tough spot with some and then this week's matches weren't as good, but basically pretty much everything flipped a switch. Everything went back. Perugia won, Lube won, Trentino won, Piacenza won.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Wednesday was an awesome day. Like those 4 matches were phenomenal, and really the least exciting one was Monza, like the 7 seed beating the 2, and we'll talk about that series in a bit. I think we should talk about it like series by series, so we're not here for like 3 hours. Let's start with the Milano Perugia series, because this was the one that we all expected to be 3-0, but on the shoulders of Osniel Mercarejo, who is phenomenal, and Agustin Loser from the service line, Milano beats Perugia in a match at home in 5 on Wednesday, so they're at least on the board in the series. My take on this one was Perugia was asleep for 2 games. They like didn't get off the bus, expected they were going to win no problem. Milano, to their credit, took a 2-0 lead. Perugia figured it out. They forced the 5th, but in a 5th, anything can happen, and Milano won. Is that a similar reaction to what you had?
Yeah, absolutely. I do think that with this Milano team, they have the ability to dig deep and just go for it. Like through and through, this roster is actually quite good. And they have the ability to kind of beat any team, but I don't know if they consistently. I thought Yuki Ishikawa was fantastic in game number 1. Has kind of slowed down a little bit since then, but Guerreiro was fantastic for this team. Matteo Piano was as well. He hit a 71%, 5 for 7, and added 4 blocks. So he was a big presence in the middle. 14 blocks overall for Milano. 14 blocks as well for Perugia, with 7 coming for Leon. And that to me, that was the big story. This team was Leon and no one else. Semeniuk struggled coming off the bus. He was 4 for 9. It's 4 for 13, and then got subbed off. Plotnitsky wasn't all the better. He was 5 for 11 with 4 aces, but they just couldn't figure it out. Herrera started the match. He wasn't great. Then they went to Richlicki. He was all right, 12 for 21, but still, you could just tell that Milano wanted this win so bad, but I really think that they emptied the tanks to get that win on last Wednesday.
I totally agree. And I think that's kind of what we saw in the second leg. Perugia responded from a blow with a counter blow of their own. The second set was very, very good. And if because Milano took the first, if Perugia had lost that second set in overtime, there would have been legitimate fire alarms going on inside that organization. If they went down 2-1 in this series, we would certainly have a lot to talk about. But they were clutch late in the second set and then didn't look back from there. Ole Plotnitsky was great. Wilfredo Leon was not so great. But this is the nice thing that they have is you can pick like 2 outside hitters out of a hat and put in a world-class one off the bench when you need to. So nice for Perugia there. But I agree with you. I think Milano they will look back on Wednesday's game that they won as one of the highlights of their season, but unfortunately I don't see another one of those happening.
Yeah, we've seen this from Milano all year long, where they come through with few random fantastic games, and then they just kind of fade away into existence after that. They just don't have. They're so good. They're very good everywhere, but they just don't have that one athlete that can really pull them up and out. Whereas if you look at Perugia, they have like 5.
Yeah, they have so many of them.
Even 6 when you consider Gianelli in there as well.
That's exactly what I was just about to say. The setter disparity in this series is an absolute joke. It is a joke how much better Gianelli is than Paolo Porro. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, it's yeah. I mean, even in the Italian depth chart, Porro is he's still just that little boy who wears a jersey that's way too big for him.
Yeah, I'll never forget how he was swimming in that mode in a jersey when he was the backup a couple of years ago. All right, so my question about this one though, Everett, like we talked about Perugia. They're playing maybe the match of the year tomorrow in Champions League. They're going to have to turn around on Sunday, go to Milano on the road again, and potentially get this series done. I think on talent alone, they're going to be able to do that, but that is a lot of volleyball that they're playing. Is that a concern for you?
A little bit, yeah. A little bit. I do think that does give, like, just not having to travel, right? Not having to play a game, getting to rest does give advantage Milano in that one specific category. But when you look at everywhere else, it's still advantage Perugia, right? But to me, that's not necessarily something that's going to hurt them now, but maybe down a little bit further down the season. But once again, we've talked about how this team has just so many options that, you know, they can not have the best player in the world in their last match and still win 3-1.
Yeah, must be nice, huh? Yeah, I agree with you. I expect to be talking about it next week's show that Perugia's on to the semifinals as we've expected all year. So we'll see what happens there. Let's move on. This series has been extremely good. Verona versus Lube in the 4-5 series. The match on Wednesday was just awesome. Verona at home in front of an amazing crowd wins it in 5 to go up 2-0 in the series. But then Lube turns it around and pretty convincingly wins at home 3-0. We were talking before the show, Everett. Lube's been doing some pretty weird stuff. Alex Nikolov has almost 0 passing attempts in the last 2 matches, but he is lining up as a full-time outside hitter. They're doing some very interesting stuff in moving things around, with Zaitsev stepping into serve receive despite lining up as the opposite and freeing up Nikolov to just focus on attacking balls. And at least on Sunday, it actually kind of worked for him.
And there's also certain rotations where Zaitsev's playing in 6 and Nikolov's playing in 1, and Nikolov's hitting a C ball and Zaitsev's hitting out of the pipe. Like, it's very interesting what they're doing right now.
It's almost Trentino-like from last year.
Yeah, almost. But it's kind of working. Zaitsev's passing hasn't been terrible. It's actually been pretty good. It's been better than Nikolov's. To me, it's kind of a question of why aren't you bringing in Botolo? Because whenever we've seen Botolo, he's been their best passer this season consistently, and offensively he might be able to get it done as Nikolov, but to me Nikolov isn't putting up like I guess he did score 5 points this weekend, and he did go, holy crap, Nikolov went 21 for 25 this weekend.
Not bad.
Not bad. That's ridiculous. He had no errors and went 21 for 25 and had 4 aces. That is outstanding for someone who's under 20 years old.
That's unbelievable. That's got to be the best match of his career.
Wow, that is ridiculous. Whereas Zaitsev was still a pretty damn good 9 for 15. Lube hit 67% as a team on Sunday.
Going to win a lot of games that way. I wonder what Verona's passing numbers were like. You know, actually,
they weren't terrible.
Bad. Not bad.
They weren't terrible. And like, once again, Kagini is getting the most targets, right? Nomori Keita is hands down, like, statistically the worst passer on this team. 45% positive, which is all right. 15% perfect, which is decent. But yeah, like I don't know what's going on here and why Lube isn't just overloading on Nomori Keita.
Yeah, we've been talking about it for a while. Why aren't teams just doing that? It seems like a pretty easy trick for beating Verona. But again, I think I said last week that with Sapochkov, Mosic, and Keita as your 3 out-of-system attack options, you don't have to. Literally, all you have to do in reception is touch the ball and keep it in play, and you'll be able to make 100%. Something out of it.
27 points for Shaposhkov in that win on Wednesday, 24 Keita. But Rob, my big question is, can Lube pull this off? Can they pull off the reverse series sweep? They were down 2-0. They were on the ropes. Did they get it done? Was it at, no, they were at home on Sunday. They go back to Verona for the next 2 matches. Can they get the job done? And can they pull off an improbable come from behind sweep?
Not the next 2 matches. They are the 4 seed. They are the higher seed. So if it goes to match 5, it'll be in Civitanova. They did this last year. Lube in the semis last year went down 2-0 to Trentino before bringing that series back to win it in 5. And we talked about it was really Trentino collapsing and a very different Lube team, but it wouldn't be the first time. It's kind of all about this wing situation for Lube. We've talked about it a lot this year in Italy and in Champions League, which they lost to Halkbank in the last round. They're very hit or miss with how their wings perform, and there isn't really a rhyme or reason to when they're good and when they're not. So I'm kind of curious to see just what Lube chooses to do. Like a point in the chat, like a good move from Blengini to hide Nikolov in reception in five of the rotations, to just let him hit balls, and then promptly he goes 21 for 25. If Verona wants to win this series, they must do it this weekend. Verona cannot allow this series to go to match 5. They must win it at home. They must do that. Otherwise, I would absolutely, if Lube gets it done this weekend and forces match 5, I would pick Lube for sure to advance.
Especially with the way that the Verona crowds have been this year. Like, to me, watching Superlega over the past number of years now, Verona's just kind of been sleepy. You know, they get some good crowds sometimes, but this year they have been something else. They've really, truly gotten behind this team, and they've had one of the best crowds in the Superlega. So if they can't get it done here, we might as well just give this series to Lube. Right? And like, this is an organization that knows how to win, with still some athletes on this team that know how to win, right? You still have Checo, who, you know, he's a sleepy bear, and it's springtime, so he's woken up from hibernation by now, right?
I think it's about that time. You think somebody got him to shed some of that weight off hibernation?
Absolutely. You know, Oro is running him through his paces at home. Take that as you will. But I mean, hey, 67% for the Lube team in the last match. You have to think that this is going to be a dangerous team, and Verona, it would be a shame if their season would end that way, for it to all come crashing down. But part of me wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, me neither, especially when you still employ Radostin Stoichev to coach your team for some reason. Yes, that game is Saturday, right? That's the only one that's on Saturday for match 4.
Yes, that game is going to be on Saturday. Whereas all of the other 3 matches are going to be on Sunday.
Yep. So big one there. I definitely think that Verona's best chance to win the series is at home on Saturday. Next series is one that I don't really think we have to spend that much time on. It's Trentino versus Monza. Monza gets a nice 4-set win at home this past Wednesday, but the obvious asterisk was no Micheletto, no Pedrascanin, and hardly any Lavia for Trentino. There was a sickness bug that kind of swept through the locker room. So we saw Zavaronok and KŁDZIERZYN-KOďLE on the left side, and we saw Gabriele Nelli on the right side, and that is not a recipe that's going to win you any games. So Monza obviously had to get that one done. But then all was right with the world as Trentino got most of its players back on this past Saturday, and they beat Monza no problem, and Monza just didn't look all that good.
No, they didn't look all that good at all. Grosjean was not good, to say the least. He was 4 for 19. 4 for 19 with minus efficiency. He got blocked 3 times and added 3 unforced errors, only 1 ace and 1 block. It was interesting to me, though, that why didn't they go to Arthur Schwartz? Like, they didn't start him until the 4th. He made an appearance briefly in the 2nd.
You got to do that sooner.
You got to do that sooner, because when they did bring him in, right, he was 8 for 15. He had more points than Grosjean in a set and a little, because he just came in as a blocking sub in that 2nd set than Grosjean did in 3 sets. that to me is a big coaching mistake. And I mean, I know Grosier's the guy who's got you there, but like we saw with Leon in the Milano matchup, if your guy doesn't have it, he doesn't have it.
Right.
It was outstanding for them on Wednesday. It's a quick turnaround in terms of professional ball. Just pull him out, because like Mar had a decent game. He was all right. He was getting tossed a lot of junk. He was at 12 for 33. Daviskiva was pretty good as well, 14 for 28 with 4 aces. But to me, you could tell that Trentino was just feeling it. 5 aces for Maciej Kaczynski in this one. They hit 53% as a team, 17 for 30 for Micheletto. It was impressive for Trentino's side, and I would like to see Monza push a little back. They are going home on Sunday, but they're going to need a much better game out of Gregor Grosier to even have a shot at this one.
Agreed. I mean, Trentino's better than Monza. That's just the kind of the fact of the matter. And Monza had a pretty nice chance in the first match of this series. They almost pulled off a reverse sweep, and that would have made things a little bit different here. But Trentino's just better than Monza. They're more talented. They have more experience, and Monza has been very fun to watch. This is a pro Monza podcast for sure with our Canadian friends, and it's great to see Kachopa back. But it wasn't particularly good the other day, so Monza's got their backs against the wall for sure. I like Trentino to get that series done. And last but not least, Everett, my personal favorite series so far, Modena and Piacenza, has just been awesome. Another 5-set thriller on last Wednesday. It was as good as we've seen Irvin Ingapet play all year. There was that one crazy play that went viral on Instagram of like a kick save and some crazy defense, and then he like reverse karate chopped the ball in the 5th set score point, which is just phenomenal. So Modena wins another 5-setter to go up 2-0. But then Piacenza responds in a big way. Pretty close, but still a 3-dong to keep the series alive.
Yeah, absolutely. Monza's offense last Wednesday was so much fun to watch. They were so efficient. Like Piacenza did get 10 blocks, but they only had 5 unforced errors. 57% overall was Modena. It was a classic Bruno performance. As you said, Engapeth was just unreal. He was 19 for 32, 20 points overall, 21 points for Adis Lagumdzija, who I have to really tip my cap to. This is a man who I've kind of clowned in the past. You know, he wasn't that strong long-term. He couldn't last an entire season. Well, this man has just gotten better throughout the season. So
it's been really good.
He has been really good. And it has been so much fun to watch him be so consistent. But when you look at the return match in Modena at home in front of the home crowd, you have the chance to clinch the series, and you get 3-donged by Piacenza. And I mean, they were bad offensively. They only hit 38% as a team. That's not good.
And the efficiency was even worse. Yeah, it was just a bad game for Modena. Tommaso Rinaldi was brutal, with the exception of the service line where he had 4 aces. But offensively, he was downright awful. They weren't all that good in just about any other area. It was far from Lagumdzija's best game. So that's fine. It's fine. You won 2 5-setters. You won 1 on the road. Modena is in a good position to get to move forward in the series. Piacenza is a good team. They're obviously going to punch back, but again, the question is this weekend in Piacenza, can they extend the series a little bit further? I think that's, I mean, obviously it's a key match, but I think it could really be a season-defining moment for Modena if they can win that one on the road.
Yeah, absolutely. But I don't see Piacenza having the consistency like potentially Lube could to be able to come from that 2-0 deficit. I definitely see Modena bouncing back, although they do have the CEV Cup match this week. So that does add another match to their schedule. And this is not a young roster.
No, it's not.
With Daddy and Engapeth and Bruno.
It was my pleasure, by the way, to put Daddy on the thumbnail for this week's show. And I think I might just have to keep him there. I think he's our... we need more Daddy.
Imagine what we need to do is we need to add Daddy to the other side so that he's like the third.
Oh, he's behind us.
Yeah, he's behind us. Maybe with like a bit of a halo, like he's God or something.
Well, he is. I think what I might do is like randomly hide Daddy Stankovic in one of our assets, like a random one of the assets during the show, just like hide him in there, and everybody has to find where he is. I think that might be.
I love that. I love that idea very much. I think that's really good.
Okay,
Let's definitely do that. Yeah.
All right,
but
SuperLega Playoffs this weekend. Yeah, Saturday, Verona versus Lube. Sunday, the rest of them. There's a chance that all those series will be over. There's also a chance that they'll all go to match 5. So that'll be electric. We'll catch up on it next week.
Before we go on, let's go through this. Rob, is Perugia winning the series this weekend or not?
Yes.
Yes, I agree. Is Verona winning the series this weekend or not?
Yes, I think they will.
I think they will too. Ultimately at home. Is Trentino winning the series this weekend or not?
Yes, they are.
Yes, you're right. Is is Modena winning this series this weekend or not?
I'm gonna say no. I think this is the one series that's gonna go match 5, or at least I hope so.
Okay, we are at odds for all the Champions League, but we're on the same page for all the Super League. I 100% agree, especially with Modena having to play that CEV Cup match this weekend, this week, just adding something onto an already packed schedule for them. And Piacenza is going to want some revenge, and they're going to want to do it at home too.
Piacenza playing 5D chess to lose in CEV Cup, so they don't have to play that match, and Modena will, so the Piacenza can be fresher for
Imagine if they had to play each other this weekend too, and we just had straight up Modena versus Piacenza all the way through.
What could have been?
What could have been?
That would have been blow awesome. It to Belgian team in a golden set. Unbelievable. How dare you rob the fans of great volleyball? Well, whatever. Yeah, good stuff going on this weekend. Volleyball World TV for all those games. Getting the Italy channel of the Discord. Speaking of the Italy channel in the Discord, let's catch up on the Lega Volley Femminile. They've got 2 games left now in the regular season. Only real notable results, only a couple. Malonza beating Novara stuck out to me. Novara was not good. They passed the ball terribly. And we saw kind of the renaissance of Magdalena Stysiak, who came off the bench and was super good. But the only other match was the relegation battle, Pinerolo versus Macerata head-to-head. Pinerolo gets 2 points. And as we look at the standings now, with 2 matches left to play and with 2 teams getting relegated, we can officially say goodbye to Macerata. They are a one and done this year. They will be relegated. Pinerolo and Perugia are 1 point apart for that second relegation spot.
Yeah, that was definitely a big one there. A big win for Pinerolo over Macerata. If they could have got it done, they did go down 0-2, which is massive.
Wow.
And they came back to basically save their season. Because what if they had lost in 3 there, they would have had 14. Macerata would have had 13. So it would have been that those 2 teams definitely getting relegated. But yeah, very, very interesting. For me, Busto continuing to win. Busto getting a win over Casalmaggiore.
That was a big one.
That was a big one, especially since this team, like this was a team that was sitting in like 10 or 11th, and we were talking about possible relegation for Busto early in the season, and they've really turned things around. Carly Lloyd has been fantastic. I mean, hey, she gives a kid, comes back, looks even better in some ways. So big ups to her. I did watch the Cuneo versus, was it Scandici matchup?
Yeah, Cuneo got a point. I was surprised.
They looked good. They just kind of fell apart a little bit in the 5th, but Cuneo looked really, really good. It just kind of reminds you about how good the Lega Volley Femminile is top to bottom, right? Anyone can beat anyone at any time, and this is why all our Turkish fans who are watching right now won't be happy to hear me say this, but I do still think that the Lega Volley Femminile is the top league in the world. Nothing against the fact that you guys have, the top 3 teams of the Champions League. That is absolutely fantastic for Turkish women's volleyball, and I love that they come onto the scene like this. But once you get past those top 5 teams, past maybe 6 when you're looking at THY, Fener or Galatasaray, maybe Nilüfer as well in there. Past that, it really goes down quite a bit, and there's quite a few matches that you can just roll your bench out, whereas that is not the case in the Lega Volley Femminile. Top to bottom, it's the best league. Just that the cream at the top of the Süttenlar League right now might be a little bit better.
I think that's well said. I totally agree. The Lega Volley Femminile still is the best league in the world, top to bottom. And a couple other things in the standings here. So 2 matches left. They played 26 games that were through game 24. CONEGLIANO has clinched the 1 seed. They are 8 points clear of Scandicci with 2 games left to play. So they can chill for a couple games. CONEGLIANO does have Macerata this weekend, and Macerata has nothing to play for anymore. So they'll probably continue to rack up points. It's starting that line between 8 and 9 is starting to get drawn in a little bit of darker ink at this point. Busto and Bergamo both 5 points clear of Firenze in 9th. And Firenze this weekend with their season on the line has to play Malonza, followed by Scandicci in the last week. And they basically have to get 6 points there. I don't see it.
No, me neither. Bergamo does play Scandicci this weekend, and next weekend they are going up Casalmaggiore, so it's not easy for Bergamo either, but they just need to hold, right? Getting 1 point, right? If I mean, Firenze, if they don't,
1 point would do it. If Bergamo got 1 point in their last 2 matches, they would be safe because even if Firenze got 6, Bergamo would have them on tiebreakers. And Bergamo hasn't been all that good lately. They've lost a couple head scratchers, and I would think they would put up more of a fight in the games than they have. But they had a very good early season, and they're coasting, and they're kind of the opposite of Busto, who had a rough early season. They've been way better since. So even though those 2 teams are tied in points and basically every other number, 2 different teams right now heading in 2 different directions, even though they both probably will make the playoffs.
Looking at the Busto schedule, though, they have Malonza, which, that is going to be a little bit difficult. And wait, that's in the last week.
Yeah, they have Cuneo this week.
This weekend, they have Cuneo. Do they have the ability to catch Casalmaggiore? Do they have the ability to get out of 6th or out of 7th into 6th? Because you would much rather play, in my opinion, Malonza than have to play Scandicci.
I agree. I think that is possible. Like Busto certainly could and probably will beat Cuneo. The thing is that Casalmaggiore has Pinerolo this week.
True.
And Pinerolo is not good, although now they have kind of a newfound life in their season, so you never know what happens there. But Casalmaggiore is better than Pinerolo. So they've got an easy schedule, and then Casalmaggiore has Bergamo last.
Bergamo in the last, yeah.
Very interesting kind of 3-team race there, 6, 7, 8. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very interesting.
I kind of see it staying how it is, though, if I had to guess.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I see that as well. I mean, I think any team is motivated not to be in 8th.
For sure.
You don't want to be in 8th because you don't have even a sniff of a chance up against CONEGLIANO, who doesn't have the added stressors of Champions League and is just fully focused on winning the Scudetto.
Yeah, I'll see if that can be
the championship. Why doesn't the women's side have a cool name?
Yeah, the Scudetto is a cool name. We might as well just call it Scudetto. Maybe it is called Women's Scudetto. Somebody Italian in the chat help us out with that. CONEGLIANO, maybe they can take a silver lining away from getting dusted in Champions League by winning everything they can in Italy. So we'll see.
Yeah, 100%. It would be a good story for line for them. And
for sure.
I mean, I still want Firenze to win. My heart is still for them, but I don't know if it's going to happen.
I think the math is a little against them at this point. So games this weekend. We'll check it out next week as they go into the last week of the season to see if anything changes. Speaking of the last week of the season, the Plusliga Everett. They have finally caught up with all their crazy games. I think today there were people talking in the Poland channel in the Discord. There's like, why is there no Plusliga today? It's like the first day in like 3 weeks that there haven't been any matches being played. But every team in the Plusliga has now played 29 matches. We've actually got a couple who have played 30. So Stal Nysa and Barkom Lviv from Ukraine, their regular seasons are over. And what's interesting about these standings, Everett, is that going into the last weekend, there's not really that much drama. Like the playoff field is set. Like Nysa has clinched. Lublin can't catch him. So we know the 8 playoff teams. We know that Bielsko-Biała is getting relegated. What we don't know, and we know like 6, 7, and 8 are locked. Like Gdansk is locked in 6th, Olsztyn in 7th, Stal Nysa in 8th. What we don't know is the top 5. Those top 3, Resovia, JW, and Zabierce, and then 4 versus 5, Zaksa versus Warszawa. It's probably going to come down this weekend to who gets home field in that quarterfinal series.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really too bad that those 2 teams are playing in the quarterfinals because they've been so good in the second half season. Of course, Zaksa adding Bednorz just adds another weapon. Warsaw, like, when's the last time they lost?
It's been months. They're on like 13, 14 wins in a row at this point.
They haven't even lost in 2023. They've been so good. It's been the return of Arthur Schaupuk, who was getting clowned last season, and this summer for when he wasn't anywhere near the national team. I think he may have. It just adds way more depth to that Polish roster. It's somewhat ridiculous. It's ridiculous that they can't.
It is ridiculous.
Quarterfinal. It's true. You have so much good. You have some of the best players in the world, and yet you can't get it done. You consistently choke. So I'm not saying it from a vindictive point either. Like, I'm saying, like, it's ridiculous because I love getting to watch Poland last year at Nations League was fantastic. But I do think that for these two teams, Zaksa does hold the advantage. They do have to play Jastrzębski. Warsaw takes on Gdansk, so not an easy team because it's a team just below them in the playoffs as well. But that JW versus Zaksa match is going to be good. That one's going to be at Saturday at 2:30.
Here's the thing, though. Warszawa's playing Gdansk. Yeah, Gdansk can't move. Gdansk is locked into 6th. If Warszawa gets 3 points and Zaksa loses, then even though Zaksa and Warszawa will play in the quarterfinal, home court advantage is a big deal there. And if Warszawa wins and Zaksa loses to JSW, which they could, Warszawa could take home court advantage. They could take the 4 seed. And I kind of think that Zaksa might punt. I think that Zaksa, having to play Champions League this Wednesday and then next Tuesday, I think that Zaksa might punt that JSW game. I mean, there's not.
They have
what's the point?
Home court advantage.
Is that more important than Champions League, though? I don't really think so. I'm curious to see. Maybe I'll shoot Eric Shoji a text and see if they have already had some discussions about this. But I could easily see
he's not answering you until Thursday or tomorrow after the match.
Right,
he's certainly locked in for sure.
Yeah, I'm not going to bother him until after the Champions League match. But like, we've actually seen it from Zaksa the last week or two. They went on a big road trip. They had like 2 away matches far away in Poland. They played the bench for both of them and they won anyway. So they're definitely not above doing that. Like, Samelvo is strategizing that way. And I could definitely see Zaksa giving a couple of the key players a rest against JSW because it's not as important as Champions League is. So we'll see. Rasovia's got the inside track to the 1 seed for sure. All they need is a point against KatoWice, which should be no problem. And then Zawiercie versus Kuprum, you would think that would be 3 points for them. So maybe they jump JW for the 2 seed. We'll see. So I think the last games of the season are Sunday, maybe Monday. Let's see. Monday. There are a couple meaningless games on Monday to close out the Polish regular season.
Yeah, and man, when's the last time we saw Skra not make the playoffs? That's
been a while.
Crazy.
It has been a while, and so they'll jump right into the quarterfinals after that. That'll be a best 2 out of 3 series. And the reason I bring that up is there was rumblings in the Discord that maybe next year the Plusliga for the playoffs might be moving to that Champions League style 2-match series format, which I hate. I really hope that's not true.
So dumb. I understand why you do it for Champions League because you need a consistency of schedule, right? You need to be able to do it that way. But it would be just so silly for you to do the playoffs because, like, especially for like TV ratings and whatnot, that there's nothing better than a game 5.
And I just don't think that set score should matter in the playoffs. In your domestic playoffs, the only thing that should matter is if you win the match. I think that should be the only thing that matters. And if you bring like points and golden sets into play, you also might bring in that meaningless game that we see in Champions League a decent amount. And if a team's season is going to end like that, I think that's the worst thing you can possibly do. So I really hope that rumor is not true, but something tells me that it probably is.
Yeah, 100%. Especially because, like, I also hate the chintziness of only having to win 2 sets.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Like, yeah, it's terrible. It's not fun.
Comment from a Polish fan in the chat. Plusliga is best of 5 in every series this year, which is crazy. So the same thing that Italy is doing. They're playing
kind of like that.
I kind of like it too. It's just so many matches for Poland. I feel bad for them. They've had to play so much.
I love how we say that's so many matches, and yet like in the NBA and the NHL here, it's games like best of 7.
Yeah, they play 82 regular season
Yeah.
games, and
in baseball they play 168.
162, but then they don't have the national team crap to deal with. That's another conversation entirely. But that's cool. I mean, Zaksa versus Warszawa in a 5-game series. I could see Zaksa punting on Saturday in the Bundesliga even more if you still can get probably 2 games at home no matter what. So we'll see.
Yeah. It's tough decisions here for Zaksa. Let's see if our insider Eric Shoji can give us any information.
I will hit him up after they beat Perugia tomorrow.
Ooh, okay.
We'll see.
Okay.
I'm on the record. All right, let's move on really quick. Talk about the Bundesliga. Their playoffs are underway, and a couple nice results in the first games of the quarterfinals. One, an upset. Gießen beats Friedrichshafen in 5. Good one there. And some interesting stuff with Lüneburg beating Netzhoppers in their first game 3-1. But talk about the lineups, Everett. We did mention this a couple weeks ago. What's going on with Lüneburg's middle position? Tell us about this.
Well, it's interesting because, Lüneburg's middle position has been just chock full of Canadians. You had Pierce Sashenko, Jordan Schnitzer, and Xander Ketrzynski. Now, historically, Ketrzynski has been a right side. That's what we saw play at Ryerson. That's what we've seen him play in the past few seasons in pro, in Qatar, and in Austria. This summer, he moved into the middle for the B team. He did a fantastic job. Opposite to that, you have Lucas Massa, who, playing for Germany this summer, we saw him play in the middle, but we were told that he would prefer to play on the right side. Now, personally, I don't necessarily like Lucas Massa on the right side. He doesn't have a right side approach. He doesn't see the game. He looks awkward at times. His shoulder, his arm swing just aren't that good. But in the middle, he is a big boy. He floats very, very well. Like, he can get up there. He has a high contact point. He is very, very hard to stop, and he moves laterally so well for good blocking. So what we've seen recently is they've switched the two. They've put Xander on the right side, put Massa in the middle. They run Massa and Schnitzer in the middle, and they have been really, really good. I think Massa went like 6 for 9 this weekend. Yeah, he was 6 for 9 with 2 blocks, whereas Ketrzynski was very, very good. He was 11 for 32, wasn't fantastic offensively, but added 4 blocks and 2 aces for Lüneburg. And it was a good match all around. I checked this one out. There's the one clip of that unreal rally.
That rally
was late in the 4th set, and it was so much fun to watch. Canadian Byron Keterakis, who's the setter for Netzhoppers, kicked the ball up at one point, and it was just back and forth. But gotta give it to Lüneburg. They used to have one of the worst gyms in the Bundesliga and in pro volleyball. That new gym that they have is so nice, and they pack it. You can just tell it's an atmosphere. This is they're the number 1-2 ranked team right now, and they're looking good, especially with Gießen beating Friedrichshafen, and they did so without of Jerry Meta, currently suffering quad injury, as a slight tear in his quad. So we saw him a little bit in that one. I don't know if Gießen can kind of pull it off. I think it's a 3-game series in the Bundesliga.
3-game series.
Yeah. I'm not sure if Gießen can pull it off. They would have to go win the next one. I guess it would be at home, so that's pretty good. But still, big win for them. Otherwise, Düren beating Hersching, Berlin beating Unterhaching. Those don't really matter. We're going to see both those teams win. Absolutely. But it would be very, very interesting for Gießen to beat Friedrichshafen right after Friedrichshafen signed Lebedew to a multi-year contract.
It would be interesting. So yeah, that right side of the bracket, especially if Friedrichshafen were to go down, you would think that would open up a pretty nice path for Lüneburg to go to the finals. So we'll keep an eye on the Bundesliga. Obviously, Bounce House, the best broadcast in volleyball. Check that out on Twitch. Quickly talk about this just the best. So good. Let's quickly talk about the LNV. Their playoffs are set in France. We talked about this last week that we knew the 8 teams. Now we know the seeds. We've got Tours versus Montpellier, Narbonne versus Tourcoing, Nantes versus Set, and Chaumont versus Saint-Nazaire. So great quarterfinals getting underway here pretty shortly. I don't know that much about most of these teams. I know where the Americans are, but that's about it. I also know that Kyle Russell led the league in aces this year, so good for him.
Yeah, I mean, very interesting. Montpellier won the league last year. They started terrible. I think
Terrible.
they lost their first 5 matches of the season. So the fact that they were be able to pull it back, they're 1 game under 500. They were 50 to 51 in sets. Is absolutely massive for them, but they're going to have a tall tale in Toulouse, who is, definitely the best team in this league. Definitely turned things up. Saint-Nazaire was a team that was in the top 3 all season long and then started to fall quite a bit as of late. So we're going to have to watch that team. That's a team with Kyle Ensing and Quinn Isaacson as well. The setter, and then Derek Epp, the Canadian, is on number 7 set, and Denny Demineko on Montpellier as well.
Yep. So they've actually got the weekend off this week. Those quarterfinals start on April 8th. So that's a week from Saturday.
I do believe it is going to be the French Cup finals this Sunday, and that's why they have the weekend off. And that is between Nice and
Tours. Yeah, you're right. That's Sunday.
Tours. Yeah. So you can check that out. Also, if you do want to watch the LNV, it is all free. We have the links weekly over at the website. All you have to do is register with an email. There's no cost or anything. So I would suggest you go check that out, because the French league is some quality ball for sure.
Lots of North Americans there. Yeah. The website, volleyballsource.ca, is an awesome resource. Our friend Joel is doing a great job of populating that full of content and links to live streams. So give that
Absolutely.
a look.
And where else is there some quality volleyball, Rob St. Clair? That shirt you're wearing right now. You guys are going to be heading over to Albany, New York for the East Division Cup this weekend. LVC has been having a pretty good year. Boston and Northeast Forest have struggled a little bit, but what can we expect from the VLA East Division Cup this weekend? Is there any sleepers teams? Which one of these tier 2 teams can we watch to kind of push the top tier 1 teams?
It's a good question. This East Division of Tier 1 is actually way more interesting than I thought it was going to be. Like LVC won the whole league last year. They have completely owned this division. But last event in Boston, they went 1-3. Northeast Force went 3-1. Like they made that division way more interesting. So more competitive than we thought there. I still think LVC is the best team, but Cleveland is the reigning champs of this tournament. They came in last year when it was in Buffalo, and they won that tournament out of nowhere. So Cleveland gets the 4 seed. You never know what can happen there. And I want to shout out the Kentucky Unicorns too. They beat a couple tier 1 teams at the Central Division Cup and kind of scared some people. They get Team LVC first thing in the morning on Saturday. So we'll see how that goes. Going to be a good event, 10 teams, 3 pools. It's going to be a lot more manageable for me in terms of running the event than the Chicago one was, with literally double the teams. So that was wild. But I've never been to Albany. I'm looking forward to it. I know our apparel sponsor, Novice, is based there, and they're hosting a party for us on Friday. So I'm stoked to go hang out with those guys. And
they're hosting it before the tournament?
That's
dangerous.
Dangerous. Friday afternoon. That'll be a fun one.
At least it's in the afternoon, so you have the chance to have a few beverages, maybe hydrate with some water, and then and get it going for Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, you know it. A lot of matches. It'll be really fun, all on the VLA YouTube channel. And if you want to hear more about this tournament, tonight I'm actually doubling up on YouTube live shows. We're going around the VLA later tonight, late night edition, 11:30 p.m. Eastern, because my boy Vince is on the West Coast. So later tonight on the VLA YouTube channel, we'll be talking about that tournament. So tune in over there if you want to hear more. Yeah, streams basically all day, Saturday, Sunday.
Great. Will you have another? What's the name of your stream again?
All day VLA. Yeah, like the NFL Red Zone style thing. Yes, we will. It's only 2 courts. There are only 2 courts going on at once. Okay. But we will still be running it. I'll be jumping back and forth commentating both that are going on. So
10 teams, 2 courts. Dang.
10 teams, 2 courts. Yeah, 3 pools. There's like 2 3-team pools and a 4-team bracket pool. We'll talk about it on the show later tonight if anyone wants to know about the format, or hit up the website. It's all on there.
All right, check that out inside the VLA later with Vince. What's Vince's last name?
Vince Zanzuki. Yeah, he's the Phoenix Ascension guy.
Oh, awesome. And yours truly, Mr. Rob St. Clair. All right, is that it for this week? Is there anything else that we need to chat about?
The only other thing that's worth bringing up is I think I brought up last week that Penn State was the new #1 team in the country in the NCAA. They then promptly went out and lost in 5 to Ohio State at home. So they have since dropped back down to, I think, 3rd. And I wonder if Hawaii's back on top, or if UCLA is #1 this week. Let's actually look that up.
I think I saw Hawaii up at #1, but It is just getting interesting over there in the NCAA, which is, the only volleyball, post-secondary volleyball that we have right now in North America now that U Sports is done.
That's right. And Hawaii is back up to number 1 in the country. UCLA 2, Penn State 3, Long Beach State 4. So I think they're just kind of starting conference play in just about every conference. So Big West is really good. MPSF is pretty good. Penn State should get through the EIVA, no problem. MIVA's not that great this year. Who's the best MIVA team? Loyola at number 10 in the country. Yeah, that's not so good. But Off the Block blog, who we've shouted out before. If you want to follow
Lopes,
men's,
baby.
Vinny Lopes is the man. If you want to follow men's NCAA, offtheblockblog.com is the spot.
Absolutely. We should chat with him. We used to, on the OG version of the Volleyball Source podcast, we used to bring in Vinny Lopes to chat.
That's sweet. I'm sure he'd be down. We can get in touch with him. Especially
absolutely.
As we get towards championships in like the first weekend of May.
Yeah, 100%. I think we should do that.
Oh yeah. All right, Everett. Long show today, my friend.
Yes, absolutely.
Let's get the people out of here and get them ready for maybe the 2 best matches of the year in Men's Champions League tomorrow.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in. Make sure to head over to that volleyball store to pick up your 9x9 and Spicy Volleyball merch. Use the code SPICY for 15% off. We will be back next week. In 2 weeks' time, we will not be having an episode because Mr. St. Clair is getting himself married. She liked it, so she put a ring on it, or will put a ring on it, and he will be on his honeymoon. So we're going to have a show next week right before his wedding, and then not the week after that. So make sure you tune in next week. If you're not in the Discord, make sure to join the Discord.
That's right. Thanks for watching, boys and girls. See you next Tuesday.
Yeah. Peace.